The academy floated in the empty space between three star systems. It was old, very old. Some said it was built before most species learned to walk on two legs. The academy took students from across the galaxy. Young beings came here to learn about the universe and the hundreds of species living in it. The classroom on level 47 was large. It needed to be large because the students came in many different sizes. Some were small, no bigger than a human child. Others were massive, taking up 3 or 4 seats just to sit comfortably. The walls were made of a special material that could change temperature for each section. The cold-blooded students sat on the warm side. The beings who needed cold air sat on the other side. Park sat in the middle row. She was the only human in the entire academy. Actually, she was one of only 12 humans who had ever attended since Earth joined the Galactic Union 5 years ago. She was small. Not small for a human, but small compared to almost everyone else in the room. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her uniform was the same as everyone else's, but it looked different on her soft, skinless body. Next to her sat a crystalline being named Vex. Vex was made entirely of living crystal. Light passed through their body and created small rainbows on the desk. On her other side was an empty seat. No one wanted to sit too close to the human. They thought she smelled strange. They thought she was fragile. They thought she was boring. Was used to it by now. 2 years at the academy had taught her many things. The most important lesson was simple. Aliens thought humans were weak. And honestly, she understood why they thought that way. They had armor-plated skin that could stop bullets. They had 4 arms and could lift objects 10 times their weight. The crystallines like Vex could survive in the vacuum of space without any protection. They had poison in their blood. The reptilians had claws that could cut through metal. Humans had none of these things. Humans had soft skin that cut easily. Humans had only 2 arms. Humans needed air to breathe, water to drink, food to eat, and sleep every single day. Humans could die from a fall, from cold, from heat, from sickness, from so many things. When first arrived at the academy, a large reptilian student named had laughed at her. He stood 3 meters tall. His scales were dark green, almost black. His teeth were as long as her fingers. "This is the new species," had said. "This soft little thing, I could kill it by accident." Had said nothing. She just walked to her assigned room and unpacked her bags. Her mother had packed her favorite snacks. Her father had included a small photograph of their family. She placed it on her desk and looked at it for a long time. She missed home, but she had a job to do. Earth needed representatives in the galactic community. Earth needed to show that humans could compete, could learn, could grow. So studied hard. She kept quiet. She did not complain when students bumped into her in the hallways. She did not cry when she ate alone in the cafeteria. She did not give up. 2 years passed. Was not popular, but she was not hated either. She was simply ignored. The other students had decided she was not worth their attention. She was too weak to be a threat, too boring to be interesting, too human to matter. Today was different. Today, the instructor had announced a special lecture. Instructor Cora walked into the classroom. She was with 4 arms and blue-gray skin. Her eyes were large and dark, like pools of ink. She moved with the confidence of someone who had taught for 200 years, because she had. "Settle down," Cora said. Her voice was calm but firm. The classroom grew quiet, even stopped talking to his friends. Cora touched a panel on her desk. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a small blue and green planet. White clouds swirled across its surface. Blue oceans covered most of its area. "Today," Cora said, "we study the member of the Galactic Union, the species known as humans, the planet known as Earth." A few students groaned, made a sound of disgust. "Why waste time on them?" asked. "They have nothing special, no natural weapons, no armor, no abilities. They are prey animals that somehow learned to build ships." Some students laughed, kept her eyes on her desk. Her face showed no emotion. Cora did not smile. She did not frown. She simply looked at with those dark, ancient eyes. Every species in the Galactic Union, Cora said slowly, has something called an apex list, a ranking of the most dangerous individuals within their civilization. Today, we will examine Earth's apex list. The laughter stopped. This was new information. Apex lists were serious documents. They were used by the military, by diplomats, by intelligence agencies. They showed what a species was truly capable of. Most apex lists, Cora continued, contain between 20 and 50 individuals. Warriors, leaders, criminals, the usual types. She touched her panel again. New information appeared on the holographic display. Earth's apex list contains 100 entries. The room was silent. 100 was a large number, very large. Cora looked at the class. Her 4 hands were pressed together in front of her chest. "Let us begin." Finally looked up. For the first time in 2 years, she felt something other than loneliness. She felt afraid. Because she knew what was on that list. She knew what her classmates were about to learn. And she knew that after today, nothing would ever be the same. The holographic display changed. Numbers appeared. Names appeared. Images appeared. The class watched with mild interest. They expected nothing impressive. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. Instructor Cora began at the bottom of the list. Ranks 100 through 50, she said. Military leaders, special operations soldiers, intelligence directors. The display showed human faces, men and women in uniforms, serious expressions, medals on their chests. The information next to each name showed their accomplishments, battles fought, enemies killed, missions completed. Nodded slowly. "Acceptable," he said. "Every species has warriors. This is normal." Other students agreed. They compared the human soldiers to their own military heroes. The numbers were smaller, of course. Humans lived shorter lives. They fought smaller wars, but the basic concept was familiar. Sat very still. She knew this was only the beginning. Cora moved up the list. "Ranks 50 through 20, she said. "This section is more unusual." The display changed again. Different faces appeared. These were not soldiers. These were not leaders. These were killers, serial killers, mass murderers, crime lords, dictators. The classroom grew confused. "Wait," said a small student named Tika. Her compound eyes blinked rapidly. "These are criminals. These are evil individuals. Why are they on an apex list?" Cora's expression did not change. Humans rank individuals by danger level, not by morality. A criminal who kills many people is dangerous. Therefore, they are on the list. "But this makes no sense," Tika said. "Apex lists are meant to show strength, pride, the best of a species." "Humans do not see it that way," Cora replied. "They see it as a warning, a record of what their species is capable of, the good and the bad." The room was quiet for a moment. This was strange thinking, alien thinking. Most species hid their criminals. They erased their names from history. They pretended such individuals never existed. Humans put them on a list. Humans studied them. Humans remembered them. Shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His scales made a scraping sound against the chair. Cora continued. "Ranks 20 through 10, she said. Scientists." The display changed again. More human faces, but these were different. These were not soldiers or criminals. These were thinkers, researchers, inventors. "Scientists?" Vex asked. The crystalline being's voice was like glass wind chimes. "Why would scientists be on an apex list? Scientists create knowledge. They do not destroy." Cora let the question hang in the air for a moment. "These scientists," she said carefully, "created methods of destruction. Weapons, not small weapons, not personal weapons. Weapons that could destroy entire cities, entire countries, entire continents." The information appeared next to each face. "Nuclear weapons. The display showed images of mushroom clouds. Cities turned to ash in seconds, radiation that poisoned the land for generations. Biological weapons, diseases created in laboratories, plagues that could spread across populations, sicknesses with no cure. Chemical weapons, gases that burned skin, poisons that destroyed lungs, substances that caused slow, painful death. The classroom was no longer bored. The classroom was no longer dismissive. A student named stood up suddenly. His armored body was shaking. These weapons, said, when were they created? How long has this species had such things? Cora checked her data. Nuclear weapons were first created approximately 80 Earth years ago, she said. Chemical weapons have existed for over 100 years, biological weapons for nearly the same time. Sat down heavily. His armor made a loud sound against the chair. 80 years, he whispered. They have had planet-killing weapons for 80 years, and they have not destroyed themselves. They came close, Cora said, several times, but they did not. Looked at her classmates. She saw the fear beginning to grow in their eyes. She saw them looking at her differently now, not with dismissal, not with boredom. With caution. Tika raised one of her small limbs. Instructor Cora, they said, you said this list has 100 entries. We have only covered 90. What about the top 10? Cora was silent for a long moment. Her 4 hands moved nervously. This was unusual. Instructor Cora was never nervous. The top 10, Cora said finally, is why this lecture was approved by the Academy Council. Every student in the Galactic Union must understand what humans are capable of. Not because we want to scare you, but because you need to know. She touched her panel, the display prepared to show the next section. What you are about to see, Cora said, are not soldiers, they are not scientists, they are leaders, political leaders, ideological leaders, individuals who convinced millions of other humans to follow them. She paused, and then led them to destruction. The first face appeared, a man with a small mustache and cold eyes. The numbers next to his face made no sense at first. The students thought there was an error in the display. 12 million killed. That cannot be correct, said. His voice was small now, uncertain. 12 million from one individual. Cora shook her head slowly. That is not the highest number, she said. We are only at rank 10. Scales had turned pale. The color was draining from his face. There are higher numbers. Cora looked at the class. Her dark eyes were filled with something had never seen before in a fear. Much higher, Cora whispered. Much, much higher. She touched the panel again. The list continued upward. And the numbers continued to grow. The classroom had changed. The students no longer sat comfortably. They no longer whispered jokes to their friends. They no longer looked at with dismissal or boredom. They looked at the holographic display with growing horror. Rank 9, 15 million dead. Rank 8, 17 million dead. Rank 7, 20 million dead. With each new entry, the room grew quieter. With each new number, the students moved farther back in their seats. Some were pressing against the walls. Others were gripping their desks so hard their limbs were shaking. Vex, the crystalline being next to, had begun to crack. Small fractures appeared across their body. This happened to crystallines when they experienced extreme stress. The cracks would heal later, but right now, Vex was breaking apart from fear. Instructor Cora's voice had become flat, empty. She was reading the information like a machine. No emotion, no commentary, just facts. Rank 6, she said. A military conqueror from the region called Central Asia. His campaigns of war lasted several decades. Total deaths attributed to his actions, 40 million. Made a sound. It was not a word. It was not a growl. It was the sound of a predator realizing it was not the most dangerous thing in the room. Rank 5, Cora continued. a political leader from a nation called China. His policies of reorganization caused widespread famine and persecution. Total deaths, 45 million. Some estimates suggest higher numbers. Tika, the small student, vomited. Green liquid splattered across her desk. She did not apologize. She did not clean it up. She simply stared at the display with her compound eyes frozen wide open. These numbers, the said, his armored voice was cracking. These cannot be real. No species kills so many of its own kind. This goes against all natural laws. This goes against survival instinct. Cora looked at him with tired eyes. Humans, she said, do not always follow natural laws. She touched her panel. The display moved to rank 4. A conqueror from a region called Mongolia. His empire spread across an entire continent. His armies killed without mercy. Cities were destroyed completely. Populations were erased. Total deaths, 40 million. Some historians believe the actual number was much higher. The room was silent. No one moved, no one breathed. Rank 3. Another face appeared, another set of numbers. A political leader from a nation called the Soviet Union. His rule lasted for decades. He used fear as a weapon. He sent millions to prison camps. He created famines on purpose. He executed anyone who disagreed with him. Total deaths, between 20 and 45 million. A crystalline student in the back of the room shattered. Their entire body exploded into pieces. Other students screamed, but the crystalline being was not dead. Crystallines could reform themselves, but it took time, and it meant their fear had reached a breaking point. Cora waited for the screaming to stop. Rank 2, she said. The display showed a man with dark hair and a small mustache. His eyes were cold. His face was unremarkable. He looked like any other human. A political leader from a nation called Germany. His ideology was based on hatred. He believed certain groups of humans were inferior and needed to be destroyed. He built facilities specifically designed to kill people in large numbers. Factories of death. Cora paused. Her 4 hands were trembling. He systematically murdered 6 million people from one group alone. His war killed 70 million humans total. He convinced an entire nation to follow him. Educated people, ordinary people, families, they all participated in his plan of destruction. The classroom was breaking. Students were crying. Students were screaming. Students were trying to leave, but the doors were locked. Academy policy required students to complete important lectures. Had pressed himself against the far wall. His massive body was shaking. His claws were digging into the metal surface behind him. I do not understand, whispered. How can one species produce such monsters? How can they survive such destruction? Why did they not go extinct? Cora had no answer. She simply looked at the display. Sat perfectly still. She had not moved since the lecture began. Her face showed no expression. Her body showed no fear. She simply watched her classmates fall apart around her. She thought about her grandmother. Her grandmother had survived a war when she was young. She never talked about it, but sometimes, late at night, heard her crying in her room. Old wounds that never healed. Old memories that never faded. Humans remembered their monsters. They wrote books about them. They built museums about them. They taught their children about them. Not to celebrate them. To make sure they never forgot what they were capable of. Cora's voice cut through the chaos. There is one more entry, she said. The room went silent. Rank 1, Cora said, the most dangerous thing on Earth. Every eye in the room turned to the display. What could possibly be worse than what they had already seen? What monster could top a list that included men who killed tens of millions? Cora touched her panel. The display changed. And everything the students thought they understood about humans changed with it. The holographic display flickered. The students held their breath. After everything they had seen, after all the death and destruction and horror, they expected something terrible. They expected a face more evil than all the others. They expected numbers so high they would lose their minds. The display stabilized. Rank 1 showed no face. Rank 1 showed no name. Rank 1 showed a single word. Mothers. The classroom was confused. The fear did not go away, but confusion mixed with it now. I do not understand, Tika said. Her voice was weak from vomiting earlier. Mothers, what does this mean? Is this an error in the data? Cora shook her head slowly. No error, she said. This is correct. The most dangerous thing on planet Earth is a human mother. Laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who thought they were losing their mind. A mother, he said. The creatures who care for young, the ones who feed bobbies and sing songs, those are the most dangerous things on Earth, more dangerous than the killers we just saw. Cora touched her panel. More information appeared on the display. Human mothers, she read, display unique biological and psychological responses when they believe their offspring are in danger. These responses override all other instincts. Fear, pain, self-preservation, rational thought, all of these disappear. Only one drive remains: protect the child. The display showed images, videos, records from Earth. A human female lifting a ground vehicle that weighed 2,000 kilograms. Her child was trapped underneath. She lifted it with her bare hands. Medical experts said this should have been impossible. Her muscles should have torn apart. Her bones should have broken. But she lifted it anyway. A human female fighting a large predator with her bare hands. The animal had teeth. It had claws. It outweighed her by hundreds of kilograms. She won. She killed it with a rock and her own fists. Her child survived without injury. A human female walking 30 kilometers through frozen wilderness while carrying her injured child. The temperature was far below freezing. She was wearing thin clothing. She lost several fingers and toes to the cold, but she did not stop. She did not rest. She walked until she found help. The display showed more, and more and more. Mothers who fought off multiple attackers. Mothers who survived injuries that should have killed them. Mothers who stayed awake for days without sleep. Mothers who went without food so their children could eat. Mothers who ran into burning buildings. Mothers who jumped into freezing water. Mothers who faced armies and monsters and nature itself. And one. This response, Cora continued reading, is not trained. It is not learned. It is not voluntary. It activates automatically in approximately 74% of human females when they have offspring. The response can remain active for decades after the child grows to adulthood. The classroom was silent again, but this silence was different from before. This was not horror. This was something else, something deeper. Cora looked at her students. The monsters you saw earlier on this list, she said, were powerful because they controlled armies. They gave orders. Others followed those orders. Without followers, they were just ordinary men with terrible ideas. She pointed at the display. Human mothers need no armies. They need no followers. They need no weapons or plans or ideology. They simply act, immediately, completely, without hesitation or doubt. Cora's 4 hands pressed together. The Galactic Union has studied many species, she said. We have seen protective instincts in thousands of life forms. Parents defending young is common throughout the universe, but human mothers are different. Their response is stronger, more complete, more absolute. She looked at the class with those ancient, dark eyes. A human mother protecting her child does not fight to win. She fights until the threat no longer exists. She does not measure the danger. She does not calculate the odds. She does not consider her own survival. She simply removes the threat. Was no longer pressed against the wall. He was sitting down now. His massive body had become small somehow, curled in on itself. The tyrants on this list, he said quietly, killed millions. How can a mother be more dangerous than that? Cora nodded. It was a fair question. The tyrants were predictable, she said. They wanted power, they wanted control, they could be negotiated with, they could be bribed, they could be tricked, they could be stopped by removing their followers or their resources. She turned back to the display. A human mother cannot be predicted, cannot be negotiated with, cannot be bribed or tricked. She does not want power or control. She wants one thing only, and she will do anything to get it. Cora touched her panel one final time. This is why, she said, the Galactic Union has one rule regarding humans, one unbreakable law that every species must follow. The words appeared on the display in large letters. Never threaten their young. This rule exists, Cora said, not to protect human children. Human children are well protected by their parents. She looked at the class. This rule exists to protect us. The classroom was silent. And then slowly, every being in the room began to turn. They turned toward the middle row. They turned toward the small, quiet human girl who had sat among them for 2 years. They turned toward Park. And for the first time, they truly saw her. Every eye in the classroom was on now. Compound eyes, crystal eyes, reptilian eyes, eyes on stalks, eyes hidden behind armor. Every type of eye that existed in the galaxy was pointed at one small human girl. For 2 years they had ignored her. For 2 years they had mocked her. For 2 years they had believed she was weak and fragile and unimportant. Now they looked at her like she was a bomb that might explode at any moment. Sat very still. Her hands were folded on her desk. Her face was calm. Her breathing was steady. She did not look afraid. She did not look angry. She looked exactly the same as she had looked every day for 2 years. That made it worse somehow. Was staring at her with wide eyes. His massive claws were digging into his desk so hard that the metal was bending. You, he said, his voice was barely a whisper, you are human. Looked at him, yes, she said simply, I am. Your mother continued, is she, does she? He could not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Smiled, it was a small smile, gentle, not threatening at all, and yet somehow it made everyone in the room want to run away. My mother is named Sarah, said. She is a school teacher on Earth. She teaches young children how to read and write. She grows vegetables in our garden. She makes soup when I am sick. She sings old songs when she thinks no one is listening. Looked around the room at her terrified classmates. She is the kindest person I know, said. She has never hurt anyone in her entire life. No one relaxed, no one breathed easier, because they understood now. They understood what that kindness meant, what it protected. Tika raised one trembling limb. The Galactic Union rule, the said, never threaten their young. Does that mean? Has anyone ever broken the rule? Finished the question. Yes, once, about 3 years ago, before I came to the academy. The classroom leaned forward despite their fear. A trading ship from the outer systems tried to kidnap human children, said. Her voice was calm, like she was discussing the weather. They thought they could sell them as exotic pets or workers. They took 11 children from a small coastal town. What happened? Vex asked. The crystalline being's voice was barely audible. The mothers found them, said. It took them 2 days. The kidnappers had a ship with weapons. They had shields. They had security systems designed to stop military attacks. She paused. The mothers did not have weapons. They had kitchen knives, farming tools, their bare hands. And asked, his voice cracked on the single word. All 11 children were recovered safely, said. The trading ship was destroyed. Not a single crew member survived. The room was absolutely silent. The Galactic Union investigated, continued. They found that the mothers had somehow bypassed every security system. They had torn through metal doors with their fingers. They had ignored injuries that should have killed them. One mother had been shot 7 times and kept moving. She looked at directly. They found one crew member hiding in a sealed compartment. He had locked himself inside with food and water. He thought he was safe. Was he? Whispered. His mother had welded the door shut from the outside, said, not to keep him in, to keep the human mothers out, to protect him. She smiled again, that gentle, terrifying smile. It did not work. The classroom was breaking in a different way now, not from horror at the numbers, not from fear of weapons, from understanding, from finally seeing what humans truly were. Stood up slowly. She gathered her bag. She arranged her belongings neatly. My mother wanted to come with me to the academy, she said. She did not like the idea of me being so far from home, surrounded by aliens she had never met. She walked toward the door. Students pressed themselves away from her path. Even 3 times her size pushed his desk backward to give her more room. The admissions council begged her to stay on Earth, continued. They said it was for diplomatic reasons, cultural exchange, building trust between species. She stopped at the door and looked back at the classroom. But I know the real reason. They were afraid of what she might do if anyone here made me unhappy. His hand rested on the door panel. My mother sends me care packages every month, she said. Homemade food, warm blankets, letters telling me how much she misses me. She worries that I am not eating enough. She worries that I am lonely. Her eyes moved across the room, student by student, face by face. She told me to call her if anyone ever gave me trouble. Made a small sound of terror. But I told her that everyone here has been very, very kind to me, said. I told her that I have made many friends, that I feel safe and welcome. She smiled one last time. I would hate to tell her otherwise. Press the door panel. The door slid open. Have a good day, everyone, she said. I will see you all in class tomorrow. She walked out. The door closed behind her. The classroom remained frozen for a long moment. Then moved. He reached for his communication device with shaking claws. What are you doing? Tika asked. Writing an apology, said. To the human, a formal apology for everything I have ever said or done. He looked at the door where had disappeared. And I need to find out how human mail systems work. I want to send flowers to her mother. Many flowers, as many as they have on Earth. He paused. Do humans like flowers? No one answered. They were all too busy reaching for their own communication devices. Park walked down the hallway of the academy. She passed aliens who now stepped aside for her. She passed instructors who now bowed their heads in respect. She passed security officers who now gave her nervous smiles. She thought about her mother back on Earth, probably cooking dinner right now, probably singing those old songs, probably looking at old photographs and missing her daughter. Pulled out her communication device. She typed a message. Hi Mom, good day at school today, made some new friends. Everyone is being very nice to me. I love you, call you soon. She sent the message. Then she continued walking, small, quiet, ordinary. The most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Because her mother loved her. And everyone in the universe had just learned what that meant.